Regarding the lawsuit that is currently being heard between the SEC and Ripple, I only have a few words to say. The SEC has provided a response to the fresh documents that Ripple submitted to the court the day before. They requested a reduced sentence because of the outcome of the TerraForm Labs case, which they believed was unacceptable. This is something that the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC does not like and is working to prevent. You are able to determine the magnitude of something by using the information that Ripple has been discussing. We are going to devote a greater amount of attention to that letter. It is only 1 page long, therefore we will read it in a short amount of time. Let's quickly go over some XRPL Apex things, which is the last but not the least one. For those of you who haven't already met me, my name is Frank Cho. I'm here to help you get through this difficult time. The topics of investment, creating a budget, and cryptocurrency are all topics that will be discussed on today's show. In the event that you have not already done so, please click the subscribe button today. By doing so, I will be able to educate you on all of the most recent happenings and news. Let's begin by taking a cursory look at the market. The total value of the cryptocurrency market fell once more, this time by 1.4%, reaching $2.39 trillion. In terms of value, Bitcoin has reached 66,000 XRP, which is equivalent to approximately 47 cents. Within the high-level coins, there is still a significant amount of red. The only cryptocurrency in the top 10 that has increased in value is Tencoin. There is a tremendous amount of money involved, as its market worth is close to $20 billion. The ascent of this cryptocurrency to become one of the top 10 cryptocurrencies and to compete with XRP for 7th place, even when stablecoins are taken into consideration, has been a very intriguing observation to see. You should have a look at the current situation regarding the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit. As we have mentioned in the past, we read the letter that Ripple sent us yesterday. Could you please watch that movie if you haven't already? But this is what the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC declared in response to the letter that Ripple had delivered to Judge Torres once more. First, let's talk about Jorge Tenrero, who is a good friend of ours. All throughout the time that we have been doing this investigation, he has been in command of this case. There is no doubt that he is aware of what is taking place. When it comes to the few amounts that are possible, size does have a role. Ripple Labs, the defendant, receives a letter from the SEC. The plaintiff, in which Ripple Labs asserts that the letter strengthens its argument against the CC's remedies motion. The letter is met with a courteous response from Judge Torres. As was stated in response to Ripple's most recent error, this authorization represents a potential settlement in the case that the SEC is currently pursuing against TerraForm Labs. For the purpose of compensation due to the fact that individuals terminate their claims for a wide variety of reasons, it is not possible to use settlements as a means of determining what course of action to take in court. To put it another way, the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC believes that they ought to request a greater fine because the issue got to court but was not resolved. Additionally, they continue to request that the court attribute the sentence to anything. You should be aware that the corporation that is being sued has filed for bankruptcy and will never again engage in commercial activities. It chose to refund investors in those securities a significant amount of money back. It burned the keys to all of its crypto asset securities, and it removed 2 board members who were in authority at the time that the crimes occurred. Despite the fact that they continued bringing them up, the SEC ultimately agreed to a compromise because of all of these factors. In order for the court to provide its approval to the contract, the law stipulates that it must be aware of certain particulars. None of these concepts are ones that Ripple supports or endorses. Ripple does not have the impression that they would agree with anything. As the Securities and Exchange Commission stated in its remedies reply brief, the settlements in this instance did not have sufficient funds. The individuals who are being accused have made a commitment to promptly return the money to the victims and to refrain from engaging in any illicit activities, which makes it more difficult to determine the appropriate level of punishment. It is best to avoid dealing with a defendant who is obviously very affluent and who refuses to acknowledge that it violated stock laws. This category of defendant continues to amass wealth by engaging in activities that are very similar to the behavior that led to the violation of the law in the first place. I am going after Ripple once more, but it is important to keep in mind that there was no theft reported this time. The sign-up process was involved in this in some way. This is what the court and the SEC both said in regard to the sales of business-to-business transactions. To this day, they have not discovered anyone who has lost money. Seeing this causes you to scratch your head once more. At the same time, it states that the court ought to make use of the same ratio of 1.27% in order to determine how much money the suspect made from sales and how long they were in TerraForm. They conclude by saying, but that's not an apples to apples comparison. There is no comparison made by Ripple between the penalty that was handed down to the TerraForm settlement and the enormous amount of money that was made by breaching the law. This figure is far higher, 11.7%, which is equivalent to $420 million to $3.587 billion. With a total gross income of $876.3 million, it was utilized. Ripple is seeking a fine of $10 million, but the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC wants the court to prohibit this. In this case, a punishment of $102.6 million would be imposed. According to what has already been said, the goals of the civil penalty laws would not be met by a punishment that is less than a sentence. Keep in mind, however, that the SEC's desired amount of $102.6 million is still a significant amount lower than that amount. Keep in mind that the Securities and Exchange Commission SE is seeking two amounts that, when added together, amount to around $1 billion in fines, money back, and other items. When compared to the figure of 10 million that Ripple wishes to use, there is a significant gap between the numbers of 100 million and 2 billion. Quite a contrast. What do you think the SEC will find out as a result of this? It is fascinating to learn what number they observed. It is beyond my comprehension that the court would even consider a sum of $2 billion. When it comes to smaller purchases, however, it makes no difference whether the final total is 10 million or 100 million. To restate, this is only for sales made to commercial enterprises. A crucial piece of information to be aware of is that Judge Torres stated that XRP is not a security. They did this in order to put it together and garner significant support. That comprised a safety measure. The oranges in question were not considered to be stocks in either the Howey case or the Howey test. The groves were assembled and then offered as an investment, which meant that they were a loan rather than a real estate transaction. Even when all of this is taken into consideration, the actions of the SEC and the amount that they demand are extremely peculiar. Now that Judge Torres is in charge, we will wait and see what he decides to do. However, with regard to stores, not going to make much of a difference in this situation. Undoubtedly, it is a wave. Will there be a significant shift in the price of XRP now that all has been resolved, approved, and everything has been completed? Just what do I know? Since it was determined that XRP does not qualify as a security a year ago, its price has increased by a significant amount. In contrast, it has decreased since that time, but has, for the most part, followed the economy. During the course of the previous year, it has not received quite as much attention as Bitcoin. Bitcoin's overall performance has been improving as a result of the exchange-traded fund ETF and continued sales from companies like MicroStrategy. On the other hand, we will wait and see what occurs next, and I will keep you updated. Keep in mind that from the following week, the time at which I upload movies to the channel will be different. Because I have so many excursions planned over the next 2 weeks and months, it won't be lunchtime in the United States. I have everything planned out. A later time in the evening is what we can expect instead. For your information, we will be running a little bit behind schedule. You are able to return to this location in order to keep up with what is going on if you join. In this method, I will be able to keep you informed. At this moment, let us take a moment